Revelation 13, 1-10, the sea beast. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Revelation 13, 1-2. Notice what it says. I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. 10 horns. A leopard. A bear. A lion. Why? 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 Déjà vu. Daniel 7's 4 beasts and Revelation 13's sea beasts. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Verse 2 and 3. 1. A lion. The first was like a lion. Verse 4. 2. A bear. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear. Verse 5. 3. A leopard. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard. Verse 6. 4. 10 horns. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Verse 7. Daniel sees a lion, a bear, a leopard, and 10 horns. And I, John, stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Verse 1. 1. 10 horns. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 1. 2. A leopard. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. 3. A bear. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. 4. A lion. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Verse 2. John sees 10 horns, a leopard, a bear, and a lion, the reverse of Daniel. Why? Recall the prophetic history of the visions of Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. Returning back. Daniel stands in Babylon, the lion of Daniel 7, the first kingdom, and sees into the future. John stands in Rome, the nondescript beast of Daniel 7, the 4th kingdom, and sees into the past. Returning back to Revelation 13, 1-10, the sea beast, to the opening text, recall once again, I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. 10 horns. A leopard. A bear. A lion. All to draw the mind back to the vision of Daniel 7. Why? Who is this beast? The answer to the first question of why Daniel 7, the vision of the sea beast has its foundation in the vision of Daniel 7, and thus an understanding of the sea beast is to be found there. The sea beast, his mouth was as the mouth of a lion, meaning he has a piece of the lion of Daniel 7, Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, 626 to 539 BC. Implying it came into being or exists sometime after 626 BC. But his feet were as the feet of a bear, meaning it has a piece of the bear of Daniel 7, Medo-Persia, the Achaemenid Empire, 550 to 330 BC, implying it came into being or exists sometime after 550 BC. But the beast was like unto a leopard, meaning it has the majority of the leopard of Daniel 7, Greece, the empires of Alexander the Great and his successors, 330 to 31 BC, implying it came into being or exists sometime after 330 BC. But he has 10 horns, meaning it has a piece of the nondescript fourth beast of Daniel 7, Rome, the pagan Roman Empire and papal Rome, 27 BC to the present, implying it came into being or exists sometime after 27 BC. But Rome is the fourth and last earthly kingdom, according to the vision of Daniel 7, the foundation for understanding the sea beast. There are no other kingdoms, since the sea beast has a piece of each of the four, and the first three came to an end previous to the fourth. It must be part of the fourth kingdom, a Roman power. The structure of Revelation 13, 1 through 10, life of the sea beast. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Verses 1 and 2a. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Verse 3. The top in white, verses 1 and 2a, describes a birth, while the bottom in black, verse 3, describes a death and a resurrection. And in between the birth and death, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Verse 2b. What happened in between his, the sea beast's, birth and death? What did he do with the power given him, the dragon's power, seat, and great authority? And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindred and tongues and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Verses 4 through 8. Notice, worshipped, worshipped, and worship. These are all the occurrences of worshipped, worship in these verses. Notice also make war and make war. These are all the occurrences of make war in these verses. Notice also mouth and Mouth. These are all the occurrences of mouth in these verses. Lastly, notice also blasphemies. Blasphemy and blaspheme. These are all the occurrences of blasphemies, blasphemy, blaspheme in these verses. Block in the sections. Worshipped, verse 4a, and worship, verse 8. Make war, verse 4b, and make war, verse 7. Mouth, blaspheme, verse 5a, and mouth, blaspheme, verse 6. And the central item, continue 42 months, verse 5b. Here's the chiasm of verses 4 through 8, what the beast did in between his birth and death. Now to understand the structure. Layer 1. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, verse 4a. Question. Who are they? And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Verse 8. Answer. They are all that dwell upon the earth, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. The three remaining layers. Layer 2. Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Verse 4b. Question. Why would someone want to make war with the beast? And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Verse 7. Answer. Someone would want to make war with the beast because he made war with the saints. The two remaining layers. Layer 3. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Verse 5a. Question. What blasphemies? And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Verse 6. Answer. Blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Layer 4. The center layer. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. This is the fruit result of verse 2b. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Once again the chiasm of verses 4 through 8. Before continuing with the two remaining verses, what of Daniel? Especially Daniel 7, the foundation of the vision of the sea beast. Recall, the sea beast is a Roman power, the fourth kingdom. Recap. The fourth kingdom has two phases. Recall Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. Returning and recapping. First Daniel 2. In the first phase, the united phase, legs of iron. In the second phase, the divided phase, feet and toes of iron and clay. Now Daniel 7. In the first phase, the united phase, a nondescript beast without horns. In the second phase, the divided phase, the same beast but with 10 horns, and another little horn having eyes of a man and a mouth speaking. Recall the points of connection between the two visions that indicate they are parallel visions, aside from the fact that iron is the fourth metal and the nondescript beast the fourth beast. Daniel 2's feet have 10 toes, and Daniel 7's beast has 10 horns in the horned phase. Daniel 2's legs and feet contain iron, and Daniel 7's beast has iron teeth. But even more important than these descriptive similarities are the phase similarities, that is, those characteristics that highlight the two phases of the fourth kingdom. Daniel 2's legs and feet contain iron, symbolizing the state. The feet contain clay, symbolizing the church. Daniel 7's nondescript beast, naturally present in both phases, symbolizing the state. The horn part of the little horn, characteristic of beasts, naturally also symbolizing the state, while the eyes of a man and the mouth speaking, characteristic of humans, symbolizing the church. Thus the two phases of the fourth kingdom are differentiated by the first being solely state, while the second is a church-state union. And since the state is Rome, the church-state union is the Roman Catholic Church, which during the Middle Ages wielded state power. That concludes the recap of Daniel. For further details, see the presentation on Daniel 2 and 7. Resuming. Now what of Revelation? The initial details of Revelation's fourth kingdom are centered in Revelation 12 and 13. The dragon, pagan Rome, naturally the solely state phase, there being no church then. Recall its proof for being Rome. Its attack on the woman in childbirth, a representation of the crucifixion of Christ as well as his resurrection. Continuing on, as the second phase, the church-state phase, the sea beast. Why? Does this make sense? Well, it is a Roman power. What else? The dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns. The sea beast also has 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads and 10 horns symbolizing the state. The sea beast is a logical second phase as he succeeds the dragon, the first phase. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority, Revelation 13:2. Furthermore, the sea beast has a mouth speaking great things, Revelation 13:5. But this is a characteristic of the little horn power, a mouth speaking great things, Daniel 7:8. Finally, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months, to make war with the saints and to overcome them, Revelation 13:5 and 7. But this is once again another characteristic of the little horn power. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time, Daniel 7:25. The sea beast, is he the little horn, and vice versa? Returning to the chiasm for a few moments. Verses 5 through 7. There is an alternate structure. The sea beast and think to change times and laws. This was seen in the presentation on Daniel 2 and 7, but it is worth repeating it here in its entirety. Revelation 13, 5 through 7. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. Daniel 7, 8, and 25. There came up among them another little horn. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Verse 8. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Notice Revelation 13, 5 through 7. A mouth speaking great things. And a mouth. Notice Daniel 7, 8 and 25. Speak great words, which we know is a mouth speaking great words or things, because verse 8 mentions a mouth speaking great things. Now notice Revelation 13, 5 through 7. The saints. Notice Daniel 7, 8 and 25. The saints. Now notice Revelation 13, 5 through 7. 42 months. Notice Daniel 7, 8 and 25. A time and times and the dividing of time. Note the structure of the texts. First, Revelation 13, 5 through 7. A, B, A prime, B prime. Now Daniel 7, 25. A, B, A prime, B prime. Notice Revelation 13, 5 through 7. Blasphemies, defined further on as blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Notice further in the same verse, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Continue literally is make. The same make as in, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. Adding further evidence to the structure of Revelation 13, 5 through 7. And power was given unto him to make 42 months. Doesn't make much sense. Perhaps there is an implied reading there. And power was given unto him to make war 42 months. Finally, notice Daniel 7, 8 and 25. Think to change times and laws. Notice Revelation 13, 5 through 7. Think to change times and laws is implied and understood. Note, a Jewish Christian in John's time, upon reading Revelation 13, 5 through 7, would have immediately equated the sea beast of Revelation 13 with the little horn power of Daniel 7. Not only is Revelation 13:5, a mouth speaking great things, a direct quote from Daniel 7:8, but Revelation 13:5 through 7 also copies its structure and the type of information it contains directly from Daniel 7:25. The bees talk of the beast, little horns, persecution of the saints, and the length of that persecution, and the A's talk of his mouth and his speech. Details are given on the contents of the blasphemies, but there is silence on the contents of the great things. But early Christians would have understood. So is the sea beast the little horn power? Yes. The relation of papal to pagan Rome. Our source. The original printing from 1651. The page where our quote is found. And if a man consider the original of this great ecclesiastical dominion, he will easily perceive that the papacy is no other than the ghost of the deceased Roman Empire sitting crowned upon the grave thereof. For so did the papacy start up on a sudden out of the ruins of that heathen power. Hobbes, Thomas, Hobbes's Leviathan, reprinted from the edition of 1651, Oxford, Clarendon Press, 1909, 1929, page 544. Returning back to the recap of the Fourth Kingdom, notice something strange concerning the sea beast, as compared to Daniel 2's feet and toes of iron and clay, and Daniel 7's little horn with eyes of a man and a mouth speaking? Where's the church? Both Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 have a clearly visible church element. Where is the beasts? It will be seen later that there definitely is one, but it is hidden for reasons that will be explained later. Returning back to the chiasm, now the last two remaining verses, a bookend. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Verses 9 and 10. Notice, the patience of the saints. Why must the saints be patient? Because they are being made war with, according to verse 7. Being led into captivity and being killed with the sword. But it reads, He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Who is the he? Why, of course, the beast that was wounded to death. Verse 3. How can it be known with certainty? Because further on in Revelation 13, the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Verse 14. Answering to verses 9 and 10's, he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. And why emphasize the sword over captivity? The beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Verse 14. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Verses 9 and 10. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it, and smote the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. John 18:10. Then said Jesus unto him, Put again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Matthew 26:52. The church that is at Babylon, elected together with you, saluteth you, and so doth Marcus my son. 1 Peter 5:13. Recall Hippolytus of Rome. Babylon is Rome. Recall Eusebius. Babylon is Rome. Returning back, the church that is at Babylon is the church that is at Rome, which became the Roman Catholic Church. emblem of the Holy See and Vatican City, depicting the keys of heaven or keys of St. Peter, a symbol of papal authority. The ring of the fishermen, Latin Annulus Piscatoris, Italian Anello Piscatorio, also known as the Piscatori ring, is an official part of the regalia worn by the Pope, who is head of the Catholic Church and successor of St. Peter, who was a fisherman by trade. St. Peter, depicted by Peter Paul Rubens, holding the keys of heaven. True, Peter did co-found the Roman Church, but Rome has failed to heed Christ's warning to Peter, and thus suffered the consequences. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Revelation 13:10. The Roman Catholic Church persecuted during the Middle Ages, and as a result, Pope Pius VI dies in exile in France. Returning to the chiasm, what is the sword that the sea beast, the Roman Catholic Church, used, and that was, in the end, used on it? The sword, the secular power or state. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Romans 13:3 and 4. Returning back to the chiasm, so the sword is the state. Substituting that in place of sword, he that killeth with the state must be killed with the state. That agrees perfectly with Daniel. Recall that the Church acts in a similar way to that of the Jewish nation in regards to Jesus. It joins with the state so that it might persecute, but then the state turns on it and destroys it. Use the sword and the sword is used on you. Recall that this is how the little horn came about. The eyes of a man and the mouth speaking, the Church, joined with a horn, a state, and then that horn later turned on her. Recall the history of this. The Roman Catholic Church joined with Clovis I and the Franks, the first of the Germanic tribes to convert to Catholicism, and later France, under Napoleon's General Berthier, takes Pope Pius VI into exile. And between these two events, 1260 years of persecution. Returning back to the chiasm, here is the chiasm once again, with the bookend marked. That is all for now. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Revelation 13:5. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Revelation 13:3. What happened after the 42 months? That is, after the beast was wounded to death. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. Revelation 13:11.